Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's lesson. Let's go over today's lesson objective. So, today we will identify what is the difference between weather and climate. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, first, let's go ahead and figure out what is weather. So, weather is the current outdoor conditions. So, to determine weather, you can just go outside and figure that out and make some observations. So, weather is going to include things like the temperature, how hot or cold it is, cloud cover. So, is it partly cloudy? Is it sunny outside? Is it raining? Wind speed, how fast is the wind going? Humidity is how we measure the amount of water vapor that's in the air. So sometimes right before it rains the air feels really thick. That could be a sign of humidity, or like if you are in a place like Houston gets really humid, so it depends on how much water vapor is in the air. And precipitation refers to rain, snow, hail, any form of water that is falling from the sky. So these are all ways that we can measure weather. Weather is just something we can do. We can go outside and we can kind of determine what is happening just by looking outside. We also can see graphs or like maps of weather as well. We see them on the news sometimes. Over here we're talking about high pressure and low air pressure. So high air pressure generally brings clear skies because the water is the air is heavy, so it comes down, so it doesn't give the sky the opportunity to make clouds. But low pressure brings rain because hot air rises above cold air. So this change in temperature causes clouds and rain to fall. But we'll get more into that later. But anyways, weather is anything that you can identify that day. You don't need a whole lot of time for it. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what causes weather. So, all weather is caused by the sun heating the earth unevenly. So, if we look over here, we have the sun, right? And then the earth moves around the sun. So, depending on which way the earth is facing the sun, it's going to determine whether it gets hot or not. So, if we look over here in summer, this is us, North America, right? We're facing the sun. So during summer, we're actually warmer, right? It's our warmer seasons. We have longer days. So we're facing the sun. On this side of the globe, where the kind of shadow is, they're not getting as much sun. Right? So it's a little bit colder, days are a little bit shorter. So that's going to affect the weather because the sun is unevenly heating the earth. Now it's going to change in spring. In spring, it gets a little bit cooler. Our days aren't as hot. And then when we get to winter, we're facing away from the sun. If we see right here, right? We're kind of over here on the shadow side. So we're facing away from the sun. So our days are shorter. It's colder. We may see snow. So that's what happens in winter. And then autumn, we have that again. And actually, we went the wrong way. Okay. All right. So that's kind of how it works. All weather is caused by the sun unevenly heating up the earth. Okay. All right. So now that we've kind of figured out what weather is, what is climate? So, climate is the average weather conditions for a region year after year. So, the thing that we need for weather is we need time and data. So, like for climate, we need time and data. For weather, we can just go outside. Like I can go outside right now and tell you what the weather is. I can't tell you what the climate is just from this one time. Climate requires time and data. So, what that means is we need a lot of data. We need about 30 years of data. So that means is maybe every day or once a week, people will go outside, scientists will go outside and measure what the temperature is. And then they have to track it somewhere. And let's say over 30 years, once a month, they figure out what the temperature is, and then they average that out. So that means they take every single day of that year, and then they divide it by the total amount of occurrences they had, and that's going to give us the average uh, the average climate. So that will tell us how about what is going to be the general temperature or precipitation or snowfall or wind during that time. So over here we see the average climate of Miami, Florida, and they did this from 1971 to 2000. So that's about 30 years right there. And so they have a pretty good understanding of what the climate is in Miami, Florida. And so they took the month and then they figured out what is the average temperature in January, in this case, what is the average precipitation, how much rain it gets, how much snowfall, how much wind, and so on and so forth. So they need time and data for climate. For weather, you only need one occurrence, maybe a week, but for climate, you need time and data. Okay. All right. Now, what can we find climate of? We can find climate of cities. We can find climate of countries. Like we can find the average climate of the United States. We can find climates of entire continents like North America. And we can even find the average climate of the world. So we can kind of take the average climate from all over different places and scientists calculate that out. And we can figure out the climate of anywhere on Earth, really. But the thing that we need is time. And we need to make sure we're taking data during that time. Okay. All right. Now, what is the big difference between weather and climate, right? So, weather can be observed each day. It's a short period of time. We can observe weather during a day, during a week. Weather can be observed each day. We don't really need a lot of time for weather. Climate needs to be observed over time. If we do not have time, we're not sure what the climate is, right? So that is what the difference between weather and climate is. Climate is an average and weather is a single occurrence. All right. Let's go over our lesson objective. So our lesson objective for today's lesson was today we identified what the difference between weather and climate was. All right, fantastic. I hope this was helpful. I hope y'all learned a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.